Hi, my name is Matthew Sellers. I'm a doctor here at Advanced Care Veterinary Hospital, and we're talking to you today about your basic setup for a reptile enclosure. So I wanted to go over some of the general things that you'll need, and remember, for each species you're going to have a little bit of variation. You'll need to know your specific temperatures and things that you'll need, but overall we should be able to cover general setup with all this. We'll start off with our temperature aspect. It's one of the most important parts of the general enclosure. We have a few different types of heating elements. So the heating pad, this will stick to either the side of the enclosure or will go under the enclosure. That's going to produce heat to come through and heat up that area. It's great for the cool side. We'll go into that here in just a bit, as well as just adding more heat sources in the instance of if you're having difficulty getting the optimum temperature for your enclosure. The other part is going to be a heating lamp. These are going to go over top of the enclosure. These heating lamps will have either a bulb that does not give off UV light but does create heat, or you'll have bulb options that do produce UV light. Those are extremely important for the overall health. Then you have various different bulbs. So we talked about the UV light. There are multiple different types. This is the one we're going to talk about just for today. So this gives off light. You're going to put it in here so that it makes sure to get coverage with the UV. We'll go into that a little bit more detail later in the video. And then we also have different sizes and abilities for basking lights. These are not going to give off UV light, they're just going to give off heat, and we'll be able to, this particular one would be a non-light setting, so if it's going to be providing heat in the dark time for your animal, this would be a great option. You can get basking lights that do create a bright lights similar to the sun, but when you need to provide heat in the evening time and don't want the bright light, you can use these infrared. Or what we have already in this lamp is going to be a ceramic bulb. So ceramic bulbs are great and they don't produce any light, except they do create a great amount of heat. So I personally am a fan of ceramic bulbs, but doesn't mean that is the only way to go about it. When it comes to temperature gauging, there are multiple different types of temperature gauges you can put. So we have digital that stick on the side, we have regular analog or pointing thermometers, and you also have digital that has a cord that you'll put into the enclosure where you need it. When it comes to the temperature itself, there is an important thing to note. That's going to be your POTS, P-O-T-Z, preferred optimum temperature zone. So for reptiles, they need a hot zone and a cold zone. And so knowing what that specific animal needs, whether it's a lizard or a snake, various different species have their different requirements. You need a warm side or a hot side. This is going to be whether you're doing their basking, as well as if they're wanting to warm up, they're going to go over to that area. And then you're going to have your cold side or your cooler side, and that's going to be the place where they'll go if they want to cool down, as well as gives them the ability to regulate. It would also be similar to what they would experience in the nighttime. And so it's very important to make sure that you have those settings proper, because a very significant thing that we see is going to be diseases that are going to be based on not having the proper temperature, and then humidity, which we'll get to here in just a second. So having a thermometer of some type or another in your hot side as well as your cold side, that way you can spot check and look and make sure that your temperatures are in the proper place. Humidity-wise, there are many different humidities that are required for all the different species. So whether it's a desert species or a rainforest species or anything in between, you need to make sure that you have the humidity in a good place. That can be done from a mixture of different aspects, either water in the enclosure itself, or you can mist. Some people will go and grow moss in the enclosure itself. There's a ton of different aspects that are going to be a little bit beyond the scope of this video, but humidity is extremely important. Dehydration is something that we see quite a bit, and it can cause a whole lot of problems. So having a humidity gauge in your enclosure is going to be important. And if you can have humidity on both sides, it's ideal, but at least have humidity on your cool side, because if your humidity on your cool side is at least the bare minimum that you need, you can know that your warm side is going to be less. Again, all of this allows the critter to go from warm to cold at whatever they desire. They self-regulate. So if they can do that, then that puts the happy, healthy aspect a little bit more in their favor. All right, next we're going to have different things to put in the enclosure to enhance the environment, as well as give the animals some feelings of safety or other aspects that are important for their daily life. So we have a couple different options for hide boxes or places that the animal can go if they want to get into seclusion. I think it's important to have one on the warm side as well as one on the cold side. That way, if your critter thinks that they would like to be on the warm side but also want to be out of full view, they can do that. Same thing with the cool side. In terms of focusing your different heating pads, placing the hide and the heating element together can provide that nighttime environment that they would have that's going to be more natural to what they're used to, as well as keeping that temperature grade that they need. So they come in many different shapes, sizes, and options. These are the two that we used for today. Something else that they're going to need is going to be water, and there are a few different aspects that you can provide water-wise. You can actually get containers that you will put just drinking water in. You can also put larger bowls in that are going to provide a place where they can go in and actually get in and submerge themselves in the water as a great way for them to intake water, but also to keep hydrated. And depending on the individual animal, some like water, some don't, so spend a lot of time in water, some don't, but giving them that option is an important part. And then in the middle, and we'll put these in, you can have various different sticks, or they make hammocks, various different parts to put into the enclosure. Now we're going to go ahead and set up the tank itself. There again are many different sizes, shapes for the enclosure, but the same rules apply to when it comes to the basics. An important thing for especially your bigger snakes, having a lid that closes and secures well. I've learned from experience that they can be great escape artists and always need to have a secure lock. Since we're going to be having a heat source go through the top, it's important to have a screen, fairly standard for most enclosures, but if you are going to be having heat go through here, it needs to be a screen and metal. Removing the lid, we're going to have our hot side over here, our cold side over here. Remember, POTS, preferred optimum temperature zone. So my gauge that has the thermometer and the humidity goes over here in my cool side. That way I know the maximum that my humidity is going to be, and I can adjust things accordingly. And then I can either take my digital thermometer and put it over here, or I can use my other digital that has a cord and run it out the front. It's whatever works best for you, as long as you have a good gauge and you can see what it is that your temperatures are. So next, if I want to have some heat coming through the bottom, this, again, you can put it on the side, it'll stick, and it will radiate heat this way, or you can put it underneath, and it will radiate heat that way. There's also other different options, so if you wanted to stick one to the side and put one underneath, you can do that as well. Just make sure that your cords are not being crushed. So once those are under there, we'll have add our hide boxes in. They're going to spend a little bit more time in the cooler side. You can put a bigger one there, and we'll have one in the warm side as well. Now, for the ambiance, if you will, as well as adding some other aspects to the enclosure, including hydration, which is important. You can do this, that's food will be in here, or just put water. You can have one over in the warm side, and then if you're going to have a larger pool, you can put that right there in the middle. That way they can be a little bit in the pool and on the warmer side, a little bit in the pool on the colder side. Again, it's giving them the option, they'll self-regulate. I also like to have various different toys or things for them to climb on. So you can add this here, add this here. Again, it's whatever you want to do. Make sure it's secure, because if they want to climb up on this, you don't want it collapsing, but also this gives them the ability to get closer to the heat source, the basking source. So this essentially meets your basic needs. Hide boxes on either side, and then you have your warm side over here, you have your cool side over here. They can get in water, they have access to other water, they can get closer or further away from the light, as well as have things to climb on. You can take one and have it over here if you would prefer, so they can climb over here. It comes down to your desire, as long as you meet the basic needs. So then, once you have it the way you like it, put your lid back on, make sure it's locked, and then you take your heating source, your basking source, put it on here. So now you turn this on, and this is going to radiate heat. It's going to help to heat that hot zone up, so they'll be able to go and be warm. If you have a critter that needs UV light, then they make these where they're double in one, or you can just get two of these. Those will both go over here. UV light is extremely important for those species that need it, because metabolic bone disease is a very important thing, and so something that we see quite often, and that's when they do not have enough UV light, that they don't have enough calcium utilized, and their bones get flimsy. That causes a whole bunch of problems. Important thing to note about UV bulbs is just because they're turning on does not mean that they're actually producing UV light. The UV aspect can drain, go away, whichever you prefer to say it, but the light may still turn on. Now it's going to be different between various bulbs that you get. Some can last a little bit longer, but on average you're going to want to be changing your UV bulb out every 3 to 6 months. Again, check the bulbs and find out, but waiting too long to change them out can cause pretty significant health issues. Again, my name is Dr. Sellers, and I'm the exotics doctor here at Advanced Care Veterinary Hospital. I would love to answer any questions you have, do general health exams. We do everything from general wellness all the way up to surgery and emergencies. Well, if you have any of those needs, give us a call and we'll get you taken care of. Have a great day.